The fall of 1997 turned the highways of northern Michigan into a moving painting. The trees burned with amber and deep crimson, the kind of view people frame in postcards. It should have been the Henderson family's perfect getaway. For months, 34-year-old Sarah Henderson had mapped every mile of their route. From their home in Grand Rapids to the peaks of the Rocky Mountains, she planned everything with the same precision she used as a high school history teacher. Her husband Mark, their 8-year-old twin daughters Emma and Grace, and her younger sister Lisa, 26, were all eager for 2 weeks of family adventure. This wasn't just a trip. It was Sarah's gift to celebrate Mark's promotion at the automotive plant, and a chance to give the girls memories they'd never forget. The Hendersons loaded up their blue 1995 Ford Explorer with military-style organization, camping gear stacked neatly, snacks for an army, and even extra first aid kits. On the crisp morning of October 15th, Sarah went through her lists one final time as Mark carried the last bags outside. The twins bounced in the back seat, already in the matching sweatshirts their Aunt Lisa had surprised them with. Lisa herself was glowing with excitement. This would be her first real vacation since college, and she was ready to soak up every moment. Before we go further into this story, don't forget to subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps us keep these mysteries alive. Now, let's step into the events that changed everything for the Henderson family. The last time anyone saw them alive was at a Shell station in Traverse City. Surveillance cameras captured Sarah pumping gas, Mark stretching his legs, and the twins buying candy. The clerk, Jennifer Martinez, remembered them well. Emma had dropped her lollipop and burst into tears, and Sarah bought her another with the kind of patient smile only years of motherhood can shape. Jennifer later told police the family looked cheerful and calm, without the faintest sign of trouble. By evening, they were supposed to reach a cozy lakeside bed and breakfast in Marquette. Sarah had booked it 3 months ahead, but the Hendersons never arrived. At first, the innkeeper, 60-year-old Eleanor Kowalski, thought they'd simply been delayed. By midnight, her worry overcame her patience. Knowing Sarah had stressed she wanted to arrive before dark for the children's safety, Eleanor finally called the police. At first, law enforcement treated it as nothing unusual. Families ran late all the time, especially with kids. But when morning came and there was still no word, the tone shifted. Sarah's detailed itinerary was handed over, highlighting Highway 31 as their planned route. It was a well-traveled coastal road, a safe, familiar drive, no reason to disappear. On October 17th, 2 days after the family went missing, Mark's brother, Detective James Henderson of the Kent County Sheriff's Office, received the call that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He took emergency leave, drove north, and joined the search himself. He knew his brother. Mark wasn't reckless. He was the kind of father who clung to the main roads, especially when the twins were in the back seat. That made the family's vanishing act all the more bewildering. What followed became one of the largest missing person searches in Michigan history. Police set up roadblocks, volunteers canvassed rest stops, and helicopters swept the skies. Everyone was searching for that distinctive blue Ford Explorer with its Michigan plates and ski rack. But nature worked against them. Just 2 days later, an early snowstorm smothered the Upper Peninsula. Tire tracks and footprints disappeared under 18 inches of snow. Search dogs couldn't pick up a trail. Winds screamed through the trees at 40 miles an hour. For nearly a week, the search was paralyzed. When teams finally pushed back into the wilderness, the landscape had been scrubbed clean, erasing whatever signs the family might have left behind. Detective Henderson set up a command post in Traverse City. Investigators replayed the Shell station tape frame by frame. They noticed the family had bought a road atlas and a disposable camera. The timestamp, 2:47 p.m., left them with more than enough daylight to make their stop in Marquette, yet they vanished into thin air. Clues were scarce. None of the Hendersons used their cell phone after leaving Traverse City, despite Mark carrying an early company-issued mobile. No credit card activity surfaced. Nothing. It was as if the road swallowed them whole. Sarah's mother, retired librarian Margaret Walsh, refused to let the trail go cold. She temporarily moved to Traverse City, coordinating volunteers, logging every lead, and pressuring authorities to keep searching. Teachers, factory workers, neighbors, everyone joined the effort. The twins' classroom desks remained untouched, their belongings waiting as if they'd walk back in any day. Tips poured in from across the country, false sightings, mistaken families, dead ends. As the months turned into years, hope dimmed. Yet James Henderson kept going, even retiring early to dedicate his life to the search. Margaret, too, never gave up, maintaining a website, spreading awareness, and becoming a voice for other families of the missing. Then, nearly 3 decades later, in the spring of 2024, the mystery stirred awake again. A team of forestry researchers mapping the remote Huron National Forest stumbled upon something strange, a metallic signal buried deep beneath the soil. When they dug, they unearthed a weathered device, an early GPS unit from the 1990s, damaged, corroded, nearly destroyed by time, yet still carrying secrets. And as investigators would soon discover, this forgotten piece of technology was about to crack open the Henderson case after 27 years of silence. Agent Torres noticed something others had overlooked. Buried inside the corrupted files were traces of a system that hadn't been completely destroyed. With the help of FBI technicians at Quantico, she built a recovery process tailored for the outdated GPS model found on the device. Day by day, bit by bit, fragments of information came back to life. The data was messy, broken, and incomplete, yet within it were timestamps, fragments of coordinates, and a path that told a haunting story. When fully decoded, those timestamps pointed directly to October of 1997, the very month the Henderson family had vanished. The GPS trail revealed a disturbing truth. Instead of staying on Highway 31 toward Marquette, the family's vehicle had veered into smaller and smaller back roads, eventually disappearing deep into the Huron National Forest along forgotten logging paths. These roads weren't on tourist maps. They were the kind of trails that only locals or seasoned hunters knew existed. As Torres worked alongside mapping experts and historians, the route became clear. The family hadn't taken a simple wrong turn. The logs showed hours of travel into wilderness, with repeated unexplained stops, sometimes lasting half an hour or more. This was not the pattern of a family trying to find their way home. Something was slowing them down, forcing them into the forest. Detective James Henderson, now in his 70s but still sharp, sat down with Torres to review the evidence. The results shattered him. His brother's family hadn't broken down along the highway. They had been lured into a labyrinth of roads few dared to enter. And then, the data revealed something chilling. The car had stopped multiple times near the very spot where the GPS was later found, half a mile away. Someone had carried that device into the woods. While investigators studied the data, Dr. Foster examined the area where the device had been buried. The soil, vegetation, even the growth of a massive oak tree wrapping around it proved the unit had been lying there for decades. Armed with new mapping technology and satellite imagery, search teams followed the same digital breadcrumbs the Hendersons had left behind. Even with modern equipment, it took over 3 hours of rough driving to reach the final coordinates. There, hidden under years of brush and branches, they found it, the rusted skeleton of a blue 1995 Ford Explorer. The sight stunned everyone. For 27 years, the family's SUV had been swallowed by the forest. Inside were toys, clothes, camping gear, and food supplies. It looked less like an abandoned campsite and more like a family forced to leave in a hurry. But then came the most haunting discovery. In the sun visor, investigators found a faded note written in Sarah Henderson's familiar handwriting. The paper was damaged, but the message was clear. "If something happens to us, know that we love you all." The girls were brave. Lisa tried to help. We stayed together. The note carried a date, October 16th, proof the family had survived at least one night after vanishing. Sarah's words weren't just a message. They were a farewell. Searches expanded. Using drones, thermal cameras, and ground-penetrating radar, investigators uncovered another chilling clue, an abandoned campsite concealed by a rockfall years after the disappearance. Here lay personal items: Emma's tiny embroidered backpack, Grace's stuffed elephant, Lisa's college ring. These weren't just belongings. They were evidence of a family's desperate attempt to survive. The site showed that the Hendersons had lasted longer than anyone imagined, possibly weeks, using makeshift shelters and scavenged gear. They had fought to stay alive through freezing nights, autumn storms, and dwindling supplies. But the final breakthrough came from an unexpected voice. Robert Bobby Hutchkins, a hermit who had lived off-grid in the forest for decades, confessed from his hospital bed. He claimed he had met the Hendersons on October 15th after their vehicle suffered engine trouble. Believing he was helping, he tried to guide them out, but his outdated knowledge of the forest led them deeper into danger. When the sudden October blizzard struck, Hutchkins abandoned them, retreating to his underground shelter that couldn't fit the whole family. Racked with guilt, he returned days later to find their camp buried in snow. Unable to face the truth, he kept their GPS unit, eventually burying it in the woods where it remained until researchers stumbled upon it years later. Forensic teams later confirmed his confession. The Hendersons had built a final shelter in a rocky depression 3 miles from their car. There, they made their last stand against the storm. The evidence showed Sarah and Mark protecting the twins, while Lisa helped gather firewood and keep their fire alive. But in the end, the brutal cold claimed them. After nearly 3 decades, the truth was finally uncovered. The Hendersons hadn't simply vanished. They had fought together, survived longer than anyone expected, and left behind a message of love and unity in the face of unthinkable tragedy.